FM Abuja. My name is Oikeke Igado Kure. The headlines, these are: President Muhammad Buhari pledges enhanced security network in Zamfara State. Senate calls for release of last Dapchi girl allegedly held for refusing conversion. On the foreign scene, Israeli Prime Minister said African migrants are worse than terrorists. And in sports, football faithful express support for the Eagles ahead of today's clash with Poland. Details in a moment. Please do stay with us. Whose focus in his efforts to restore sanity and accountability in the management of resources in the country. On the recent killing of a notorious bandit, Buhari Soho, in the state, the president directed the nation's intelligence units to find out more information on the deceased with a view to arresting all members of his gang. He also challenged state of Zamfara to go to the archives and identify the grazing routes and meet with fellow governors so as to come up with a strategy to check farmers' herdsmen clashes in that state. The Senate has called on the security forces to secure the release of the last Dapchi schoolgirls still being held by Boko Haram insurgents. The upper chamber also sought the release of the remaining 112 Chibok girls in captivity. The appeal followed a point of order by the majority leader, Senator Ahmed Lawal, on the recovery, return or release of the abducted Dapchi girls. He thanked Nigerians for showing patriotism and giving Yobe people the kind of support that they needed. He urged the federal government to expedite action and leave no stone unturned in the effort to recover the remaining girl from Dapchi and 112 from Chibok. Nigerians are still reacting to the release of the abducted Dapchi schoolgirls. The federal government had confirmed that 105 of the 110 students of technical government girls taken in February have been returned.
Basically, the threat will have a serious effect in the education of female children in the north, considering that first and foremost, it doesn't fall in line with their religious belief. And secondly, there is now a threat hanging over the lives of these young girls. Women and mothers generally spend more quality time with children at home. If the female child is not educated, I don't know how they intend to help the mindset of these young girls when they grow into womanhood to have children, and the kind of impact they will impact to their child, because you can't give what you don't have. So I think it's a very serious dent and a challenging time for female education for girls in the north, basically.
The government should come all out to fight this menace, the entire system, because cannot compromise the value of education to ignorance. So telling your child not to go to school, no. It's not the ignorance of the girl that will bring about solution, but the continuous education. I think we should try and reorientate these women, give them the necessary help they need, make them feel wanted, and then also make them know that only education can fight these threats.
That shouldn't stop girl-child education, and I don't think it will affect girl-child education in that region, especially those girls, because if they are not opportune to go back to school, the zeal is still there, and I think maybe in the nearest future they will be able to send their children to school, and we don't pray that this insurgency continues to the end. So definitely we are looking forward to the end of the whole Boko Haram thing. A vital, documented attention should be given to our security agencies, and if they really want to protect the school environment of the nation or the states involved in this situation, then we are thinking of employing more equipped personnel, not just giving anybody.
If government gives the example, the lead as to how schools should be secured, the private sector will take a cue. You cannot be more protective than the government. It's not possible. In the same way, you cannot start getting a security apparatus in your school much more than the government. No. Even if you are bringing in dogs, who is telling that those dogs cannot also bite the students who are there? So you cannot be more protective than the government. So the government remains that apparatus.
Meanwhile, President Muhammadu Buhari says he is committed to the freedom of the only Dapchi schoolgirl still in captivity. The senior special assistant to the president on media and publicity, Garba Shehu, disclosed this in a statement in Abuja. Shehu said the Buhari administration would not relent in efforts to bring Lael Sharibo safely back home to her parents, as it has done for the other girls. Sharibo is said to have been held back by the terrorists over her decision, as reported, not to convert from Christianity to Islam. The president assured the Sharibo family that he will continue to do all that he can to ensure that they also have cause to rejoice with their daughter soon. The House of Representatives has urged the federal government to commence the implementation of free and compulsory education for primary and secondary school children. The lawmakers said the number of out of school in the country has reached an alarming level of 10.5 million children spread across the country. As such, the House also urged the federal government to invest more in teacher training, improved on student-teacher ratio, as well as improve on educational infrastructure in the country. This follows the adoption of a motion by Akinwumi Olaitan and Jimoh Olajide, who regretted that an International Labour Conference in the 2016 declared that Nigeria is one of the 10 countries in the world accounting for the majority of children deprived of access to education. Nigerians have expressed dismay over the Independent National Electoral Commission INEC's plan to expend about 250 billion naira on the 2019 general election. Those who spoke with their correspondents said the money is too huge to be spent on the general elections and should be reviewed.
I don't think spending double of the amount being spent on budget in 2015 has anything to do with election process in the country. I think INEC needs to go back to the drawing table and come up with ideas on how to make our election free and fair. The budget being put together by INEC has nothing to do with election. What we need is a free and fair election. People cannot go and queue up and they will cast their vote. Their vote will not count. So that is not what we need. Okay, they need to pay staff, they need to buy equipment and all that, but that doesn't mean they have to spend double of what they spent in 2015.
I don't think really is the money we should be concerned about. We can all testify that the rates of dollar to naira, the last election are nice, but ensuring that these monies are put square pegs in square holes. We have noticed that there is still election fraud. So if they can and seriously tell us that these are the things we want to do to ensure that there's no electoral fraud, how will the voters be protected? How will the voters ensure that their votes that they have cast is adequately counted? Those are the things that electorate really want to see.
The major problem I think we have here is that everybody's just looking for means to make money, and I think INEC are also doing the same thing, because if truly they are looking for a true and fair election, they should be thinking of the strategy, not the equipment. Because if you look at it from another point of view, we are complaining that the nation is in debt. So you shouldn't be thinking of doubling. You should cut your coat according to your size. They should think of how can they make a free and fair election, how can they get things done in a lesser price, not even doubling it. Because I don't think they are supposed to even use the same amount we used 2015, because 2015 we're still enjoying the whole condition of the nation.
INEC National Commissioner Professor Okechukwu Ibianu had said the 2019 election budget would take into consideration the present realities, including the exchange rate. According to him, the Commission spent between 115 billion and 120 billion naira to organize the 2015 general election, adding that the amount is likely to double in 2019. And still on electoral matters, Nigerians have said political godfatherism remains a threat to the country's democratic growth. With increased political momentum as a result of the 2019 general elections, the need for leaders to come from the choice of the masses has again been stressed. Those who spoke with us say a true political representation that abides by the principle of democracy is the one that will provide dividend of democracy to the people.
We should be able to hold our leaders accountable. Godfatherism is existing in our politics because the citizens have refused to rise up to their civic responsibility to say this government is a government we are putting in place for our own best interests and how that interest can be protected and be accounted for. And so until the citizens rise up to their civic responsibility in participating fully in electioneering and good governance of this country, Godfatherism can never be eliminated because it will always become the selection process and not the election process, because people are now selected because of who the Godfather wants to support and not because they can deliver on the dividends of democracy.
The power is not actually for the people, it's for some personal individuals. The only way we can eradicate this per se or kick it is by making sure the youth take over. With the trend of the way the leadership hierarchy has been coming through, we've discovered that those people that were leaders when we were kids are still the people ruling till date. So at the end of the day, we discover that the power is still in the circle. So the only way we can actually kick against this godfatherism is for the youth to step up, stand up, and believe in what they want, not those people coming to dictate just few months. Because if you want to change the situation of this nation, you have to first of all change the system of voting your leaders.
If the government have a good regulatory framework that can say, okay, we have certain amount for these parties, I'm sure that can accommodate most of the young people who really have little or no money, but have the capacity, are resourceful, and have the goodwill. I believe strongly will help redirect the affairs of the youth. Things that money can do, if you don't have it, definitely you'll be stalled. And that is where Nigeria is. A lot of credible candidates, very young, aspiring people, intellectual, but their backup is not there. So we will see that kind of leadership emerge with time. Nigerians are tired really of succession, bringing in somebody that's your person and it succeeds you and all those things. But Nigerians also have not come out. If the regulatory framework is in place and a whole lot of things are put the way they are supposed to be put, I'm sure, adequately sure that in the next election to come, that we will see the kind of candidates who can really help Nigerians get to that desired haven.
Godfatherism has become a norm in Nigeria's political environment, and unfortunately, it portends danger to the country's democracy. This is because where a godfather uses his power and wealth to secure political position for their candidates, they later receive gratification through looted funds by the candidates. Co-chairman of the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, Bill Gates, has urged the federal government to invest more in health and education. He said the country would do better with strong investment in health and education rather than concentrating on physical infrastructure to the detriment of human capital development. Gates spoke at a special session of the National Economic Council in Abuja. The council, chaired by the Vice President, Yemi Osinbajo, has all the 36 state governors, relevant ministers, and the governor of the Central Bank of Nigeria as members. Gates said available statistics shows that the country still looks like a low-income country, adding that Nigeria has the 4th worst maternal mortality rate in the whole world. We now take a short break. We'll be right back. Please do stay with us. Now the news again, and welcome back. On the front scene, Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has said that the flood of illegal migrants from Africa was worse than terrorists in the Sinai Peninsula. The Israeli government had 2 months ago issued a 90-day notice for thousands of African migrants to leave the country or face imprisonment. Reacting to the quick notice, the African migrants had stated that they prefer going to prison in the European country rather than return to Africa. But speaking at an event to celebrate the Negev region held in Dimona, Netanyahu said he has recently completed a fence along more than 200 kilometers of the border with Sinai. According to Netanyahu, the border fence constructed along Israel's border with Egypt is holding back a potential flood of illegal migrants from Africa. He said without the fence, Israel will be faced with a flood of illegal migrants from Africa, which he said is worse than Sinai terrorist attacks. In sports, Manchester United has announced its plans to form a women's professional team after long being criticized for lagging behind their rivals. The Premier League giants are the only top-flight club in England without a senior women's team. United said they had submitted an application to the Football Association to join the second tier of the Women's Super League. Manchester United Executive Vice Chairman Ed Woodward said they are pleased with the development. He added that the women team would give many more graduates from the regional talent club the chance to establish themselves as first-team players. Meanwhile, Nigerian Super Eagles will today clash with their Polish counterpart in a friendly.
I want to commend the Nigerian Football Federation for having this kind of quality fixture. It's a very good one. Poland is a good team. From Lewandowski to Podolski to different kind of players like that. But you see, friendlies like this, we have different expectations. We, as the fans of the Super Eagles, of course, we want to trash Poland. But my knowledge of football is a little bit deeper than that. I know that the coach now, will want to assess his players. We want to see how they blend. We want to see how they play together as a team. We want to see how the puzzle all fits in together. And that's what is paramount in his mind, not defeating Poland. The average Nigerian will want Poland defeated, but he will want to see, because it's pointless defeating Poland and then losing to Argentina. So he will want to see how all these things will play together. All the same, I wish the Super Eagles a good outing.
I'm wishing our Super Eagles the very, very best, nothing but the best. They make the country so proud, and we trust them they can really do more than that. The eagle must fly, and I'm so trusting God by the mercy of God that World Cup, we are coming back home with our couple.
And yes, and that's what we believe. We're coming back with the couple. And on that note, we say thank you for listening. But before we go, I'd like to remind you that President Muhammadu Buhari has pledged enhanced security network in Zamfara State. Senate calls for release of last Dapchi girl allegedly held for refusing conversion. And on the foreign scene, Israeli Prime Minister said African migrants are worse than terrorists. And in sports, football faithful expressed support for the Eagles ahead of today's clash with Poland. Thank you for listening. My name is Oikike Igado Kure.